I spoke to the member for Goldstein, one of the Teal independents, Zoe Daniel, a short time ago, and started by asking her about how this message from Peter Dutton on focusing on cost of living and dealing with that over the issue of climate change, how that's going to be received in Middle Australia.
Oh, look, people are struggling with cost of living. People are struggling with cost of living in my electorate. But I would say that if successive governments had actioned strategically renewable energy before now, we would be receiving much cheaper energy, and that would be taking the pressure off families. There is no doubt that a lot of families are struggling with the cost of living. That is very true. But I also think certainly families in my electorate are concerned about the future of their children, and that goes to climate and energy policy. And I was elected on a climate policy platform, and the people I've spoken to over the last couple of days are really concerned about any backsliding on that.
Yes, so in that context, do you agree with Sophie Scomps that the coalition has given up on seats like yours, the Teal seats?
Well, look, that's a matter for them. I mean, really, I listen to, speak to and engage with people in my electorate. That is my job. And those people elected me with a mandate to advocate for them on a range of policy areas, and climate policy was a very prominent one. And I think that one of the key reasons that the coalition lost government in 2022 was to do with frustration within our community that they weren't paying enough heed to climate policy and the energy transition. And I was with a group of volunteers here in my office last night, Kieran, and they were horrified at the coalition backing away from this, because it goes to the capacity for business to invest in order to enable that transition. And the concern is that if we're still flip-flopping around on this, that progress will stall. And that is really problematic, not only for my community, our country, but also the globe.
Mr Dutton says he wants to assess the economic situation after the election if he wins government before committing on those midterm targets. Is there an element of that makes sense?
Look, we have legislated targets, and to adhere to the Paris Agreement, we need to hit those targets. So that's one piece of this. And I'm curious what the legal implications are for any incoming coalition government if they don't adhere to those targets. And also the second question is, well, if they had to change the legislation and they don't have the balance of power potentially in the House or the Senate, I don't know how they do that either. But I think the third piece is people need to know what their policy is. You can't just say, well, based on a sort of theoretical plan to have nuclear energy in 15 years' time, we want you to trust us that we can fix the problem by 2050. It has to be underpinned by more than that. And I don't think you can float something out there with no detail in the way that they have.
Do you take any comfort in the fact that the coalition and the leader, Peter Dutton, are saying that they are still committed to the Paris Agreement?
Well, I don't really understand that point of view, I must say. I don't really understand their sort of having a bit each way on this. I mean, we have responsibilities under the Paris Agreement to hit the targets that we've legislated. So I don't really get how you can have a bit each way where you can say, well, we're still committed to Paris, but we're not going to hit the 2030 target, and we're not going to say what the target is. That's very confusing to me. So if nothing else, I think they need to better explain that because I think those two things are contradictory.
Just to wrap up on this issue where we began in a way, what do you say, your direct response to the assertion that the Teals are out of touch with average families? That was the claim made by Mr Dutton yesterday.
Look, Mr Dutton will say things for political reasons. I talk to people and families inside, and indeed a lot of people from outside my electorate who contact me every day. I'm a community independent. All of the work that I do is based on deep community engagement, community events, pop-up offices, and talking to people about what's happening in their lives. There is absolutely pressure on people because of cost of living. In my electorate, a lot of that pressure is mortgage pressure, very expensive housing here. And that is something that I am absolutely connected to. But I don't think weaponising climate policy and energy policy is the right way to go about fixing that.